Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjali Hari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjali Hari. Oh, I don't think I can do that with hearing aids on. Gopi Janabala Jaya Radha Madhava. So that prayer that Srila Prabhupada used to sing before almost every class, or at least part of it he would sing, he would say that it described everything. It described all of Vrindavan, the cowherd boys, everything, Govardhan Hill, and the whole beautiful. He used to set the mood of Vrindavan by singing this song. That just a few slokas of it. I'm sure you've heard, haven't you? Does everyone listen to Prabhupada lectures here sometime? So you've all heard it. So this mood is a little bit different here, though. This is Learn to Shingadev Dham. It's not. It's a very wonderful mood. It's first time I've ever seen a lot of what Prabhupada taught put into practice, so far as the homams, the varnashram, the way of life, so to speak. And you're really fortunate to have this oasis like this. I mean, it's and all these beautiful children coming in with special fire sacrifices for them too. So I was thinking that we would begin Ishopanishad because in the early days, when Ishopanishad first came out, it was one of the first books. Prabhupada wanted us to sing the whole thing every day. So the way we learned it, we would chant 2 or 3 of the mantras each day and keep adding on until we were able to chant the whole thing. So maybe it won't take the whole time, but I thought it would be nice. But do you have it in English? I mean, it doesn't matter. If it's in German, then the Sanskrit's there. It's a very eloquent text. It's sometimes people who are not able to understand the more personal and sweet aspects of Krishna Bhakti, they're able to resonate with Ishopanishad first. And then by entering into Ishopanishad, it's very philosophical. It's very high-level philosophy. They're able to then access the sweeter moods, you might say. But the first mantra is Om Purna, it's the invocation. Om Purnamidam Vidamidam Purnat Purnamidachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visashrite. I'm sure you heard this on the Apple album at one time. Well, the reason they did that is because that's what we were doing then. At that time in history, we were chanting this every day. So would everyone like to chant it? Yeah. Unless you want to do it individually. A complete whole. Ready? Om Purnamidam Purnamidat Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as a complete whole. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete by itself. And because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Shall I read more of it or not? The complete whole of the Supreme Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman forms an incomplete realization of the Absolute Complete, and so also does the conception of Paramatma, the Supersoul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Satchidananda Vigraha. Impersonal Brahman realization is the realization of his Sat, eternity aspect, and Paramatma, the Supersoul realization, is the realization of his Sat and Chit, eternity and knowledge. But realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendent features, Sat Chit Ananda. In the personal concept, this is realized in complete form, Vigraha, and so the complete whole is not formless. If he is formless, or if he is less than his creation in any other thing, he cannot be complete. The complete whole must have everything, both within our experience and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. The complete whole personality of Godhead has immense potencies, and all of them are as complete as he is. Therefore, this phenomenal or material world is also complete by itself. The 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation are completely adjusted to produce complete things necessary for the maintenance and subsistence of this universe. No extraneous effort by any other unit is required for this maintenance. The universe has its own time fixed by the energy of the complete whole, and when that time is complete, this temporary manifestation will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete. There is complete facility for the small complete units, namely the living beings, to realize this, and all forms of incompleteness are experienced only on account of incomplete knowledge. The human form of life is a complete manifestation of the consciousness of the living being, which is obtained after evolving through 8,400,000 species of life in the cycle of birth and death. If a human being does not realize his completeness within the complete in this life of full consciousness, he loses the chance of realizing his completeness and is put again into the cycle of evolution by the law of material nature. Because we do not know that there is a complete arrangement in nature for our maintenance, we make efforts to utilize the resources of nature to create a so-called complete life of sense enjoyment. This misleading life of sense enjoyment is called illusion, because the living entity cannot enjoy the life of the senses without being dovetailed with the complete whole. For example, the hand of the body is a complete unit as long as it's attached to the body. When the hand is detached, it may appear like a hand, but actually it has none of the potency of a hand. Similarly, the living beings are parts and parcels of the complete whole, and as long as the parts and parcels are detached from the complete whole, the illusory representation of completeness is not enough to bring the desired result. The completeness of human life can only be realized when the human form of life is engaged in the service of the complete whole. Any service in this world, whether social, political, communal, international, or even interplanetary, will remain incomplete unless and until it is dovetailed with the complete whole. And when everything is dovetailed with the complete whole, the attached parts and parcels also become complete in themselves. Isn't that beautiful? This is our whole philosophy in 2 pages. It's everything. If only people realized this, they wouldn't be so worried about everything. They certainly wouldn't be worried about, global warming and all that other stuff. They would understand that the Lord can supply any number of living entities. Srila Prabhupada used to say, there is no surplus there is no too many population. That's not true. The Lord can supply everything for everyone, but it's a misuse, and the devas withdraw. So, shall we chant another mantra? We'll try to learn one every day, or 2, or 3. There's only 18. Ishavasham midam sarvam jat kincha jagajam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magridha kasya sridhanam. By the way, I'm not the Sanskritist. If there's a good Sanskrit person here, they can lead this. Is there somebody that's a good Sanskritist? Or we're about all on the same level here in Sanskrit. Everything, animate or inanimate, that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So you want to chant that one? Isha vashamidam sarvam jat kincha jagajam jagat tena taktena bunjita magridha kasyasridhanam. Shall we do another one? These really grow on you. You get where you really chant them in your mind. That's mantra 1. We just read the purport. The translation. Kurvan evaha karmani jiv jivishek chatam samaha evam tvai nanjata toti nat evam tvai nanjate tosti na karma jate nare. Okay, you can chant it now. Probably do a better job of it than me. Kurvan. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on doing work in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma, and there is no alternative to this way for man. This is heavy stuff, you know. Okay, mantra 3. Ashurya namate loka andena tamasa frita tamse pretya bhigashanti yeke chatma hanojana. Okay, now you chant. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. That's the translation. I'm not reading the purport because we're just going to go through here the first time. Mantra 4. Anyad eka manaso jariyo naina deva apnuvam purvam. I haven't chanted this in a while. Okay, we got to go a little slower here. Anijad ekam manaso javiyo naina deva apnuvan purvam arsat tad davito nan atyeti tistat tasmin apo matar vishra dadati. Okay, I really butchered that one bad. Let's see if you can do better. The personality of Godhead, although fixed in his abode, is more swift than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he has control over those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. Mantra 5. Tad ejati tan naijati tad dare tad bantiki tad antarasya sarvasya tad u sarvasya sabayataha. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and again, he is outside of everything. Mantra 6. Yastu sarvani bhutani Atmani eva nupasyati sarvabhiteshu chatmanam tatona vijagupsate. A person who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and sees all entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything nor any being. Mantra 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmanivar buddhijanate tatra ko mohaka shoka ekatvam anupasyata. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What is there as illusion or anxiety for him? Mantra 8. Oh boy, this is a hard one. I don't even know if I can do it. This is a hard one. Sa paryaga chukram akayam avranam anasviram shudam apapa vidham kavir manisi paribur swayambur yata tatyatoram vyadadak chavatpaya samvaya. Okay, maybe you can do better than me. I did pretty bad. Such a person must know, in fact, the greatest of all, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminate, the self-sufficient philosopher who is awarding everyone's desire since time immemorial. Now that's a heavy one, isn't it? Such a person must know, in fact, the greatest of all, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminate, the self-sufficient philosopher who is awarding everyone's desires since time immemorial. Maybe we've done 8. Maybe we'll do one more. 9. Andam tama pravishanti ye vidyam pnupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha. Those who are engaged in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the so-called culture of knowledge. Now that's a strange one. What does that mean? The so-called color. In this mantra, there is a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya, or ignorance, is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya, or knowledge, when mistaken or misguided, is even more dangerous. In modern human civilization, this explanation of Sri Ishopanishad is more applicable than at any other time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the matter of mass education, and yet the result is that the people are more unhappy than before on account of too much stress on material advancement without any taste for the most important aspect of life, the spiritual aspect. As far as vidya is concerned, the first mantra of Sri Ishopanishad has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and forgetfulness of this fact is called ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. And in view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the mass of people are less advanced. There are different classes of men called karmis, jnanis, and yogis. The karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. Almost 99.9% of the people in modern civilization are engaged in activities of sense gratification under the flags of various activities such as industrialism, economic development, altruism, political consciousness, and so on. But all these activities are more or less based on the satisfaction of the senses, without any reference to the sort of God consciousness described in the first mantra of Sri Ishopanishad. taken over. I read. Good night. One day I happened to be wandering on the internet. Accidentally I came across something. I don't know how it came. It was a person who had left this world and come back, a near-death experience. And what was so interesting was, this is just an ordinary Christian person, no great philosophy or anything like that. But, you know, people have experiences. They do have experiences, because God is God. So she was saying that God came nearby, and he said to her, "What would you do if it was just me and you?" And she didn't understand. And then a little while later, she was seeing some things, you know, how they have guides and people. What would you do if it was just me and you? She didn't understand. And then the third time, what would you do if it was just me and you? She didn't understand it. So she came back into her body and back into the world. And the truth is, it is just me and you. You know what I mean? And that's a very advanced realization for this lady. I mean, well, she didn't get it, but it took me a few minutes, even when I heard it. It took me a few minutes. What does he mean? And then it dawned on me. Because that's really what it is. There's me and you. There's God and the soul. There's Krishna in whatever form that we see him. And our relationship with him. That's all there really is. There's really nothing else. The other stuff is what keeps us busy in this material world. It does get boring here, so we have to learn all kinds of new things and get into trouble of various sorts. Anyway, I don't know what happened. So we began the Ishopanishad. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, I'm glad I don't have to wear that harness today.
Thank you. We read in the beginning. In the beginning, we read that this world is a perfect, because it's a part of a supreme perfect whole, isn't it? So this world is a perfect. That's what we read in the beginning, isn't it? Because everything is perfect.
Everything's perfect. And
Everything is perfect.
Everything in this whole creation is perfect. And there's no lack.
Yeah, and then after, the last verse was there is a vidya and avidya.
Yeah.
So it sounds contradictory. There is how avidya, it's a perfect as well.
What?
Last verse was saying there is a vidya and avidya.
Yes.
So how does it conciles with this, that everything is perfect? Because we have a duality in this world. And avidya, is it that perfect as well?
Wow, that's pretty philosophical. Maybe we better read the rest of that purport. Maybe it tells us. Let's just check and see. Because in the language of Bhagavad Gita, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are mudhas, in darkness, like the ass, the symbol of stupidity. People who are simply engaged in the pursuit of sense gratification without any real profit in life are, in the estimation of Sri Ishopanishad, worshipping avidya. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. The advancement of learning by the godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. The cobra is decorated with such a valuable jewel, as quite as dangerous as a cobra decorated with such a valuable jewel is quite as dangerous as one who is just not so decorated. It's basically saying that this worship of avidya, those who are leading the whole civilization in accepting this avidya as being truth, i.e. scientists, primarily scientists, atheistic philosophers, the bad guys in society, those are more harmful than just a simple stupid guy that's all he's doing is thinking of eating his food and having his sex, just being sensitive. That they're much, much more dangerous because they're leading a whole civilization astray. Again, the advancement of educational activities by a godless people is, according to the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, a decoration for a dead body. In India, as in many other countries, some people follow the custom of leading a procession with a decorated dead body for the pleasure of lamenting relatives. In the same sense, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. Such activities are targeted towards sense gratification. But above the senses there is the mind, and above the mind there is the intelligence, and above the intelligence there is the soul. Therefore, the aim of all education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such a realization of life must be considered avidya, or nescience. And to culture such nescience means going down to the darkest regions of ignorance. Such mistaken educators are known in the Vedic language by 4 names: Vedavatarata, Mayaya, Aprita Jnana, Ashuram Bhavam, and Naradama. The Vedavatarata people pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Vedavatarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such results as the attainment of heaven. As stated in Mantra 1 of Sri Ishopanishad, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything, and we must be satisfied with our allotted portion of the necessities of life. The purpose of the whole Vedic literature is to awaken the God consciousness in the forgetful living being. And the same principle is presented in various ways in the world's various scriptures for the understanding of foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose is to bring one back to Godhead. But the Vedavatarata people, instead of realizing the purport of the Vedas, take it for granted that side issues such as the attainment of heavenly pleasure or sense gratification, The lust which is the very cause of their material bondage in the first place, is the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by interpreting the Vedic literature, and sometimes they condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. The Veda-Vattaratas make their own explanations of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of the great teachers called acharyas. And they tend to raise some unscrupulous person from amongst themselves as the leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. These men are especially condemned by this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad, which is a very appropriate Sanskrit word, Vidyarata. Vidya means Veda, because the Veda is the original in all knowledge, and Rata means engaged. Vidyarata means engaged in the study of Vedas. As such, the so-called Vidyaratas are condemned here because they do not know what the purpose of the Veda is on account of disobeying the acharyas. This is very significant in this day and age. Very, very significant. Don't think it's just history. Such Veda-Vattaratas are accustomed to finding meaning in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is not a collection of ordinary books, and it cannot be understood except through the chain of disciplic succession. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of the Katha Upanishad. But these Veda-Vatarata people have their own acharya, who is not in the chain of transcendental disciplic succession. Thus they will progress into the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature, even more so than those who have no knowledge of Vedas at all. The Mayaya Apahita Gyan class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they are themselves God. We've got a few of those in the world right now. And there is no necessity of worshiping another God. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such foolish men cannot recognize their own foolishness regarding the question of how God can ever have been entrapped by illusion. If God were entrapped by illusion, then illusion would be more powerful than God. But they also say that God is all-powerful. If God is all-powerful, then how can he be overpowered by illusion? The self-made gods cannot answer all these very questions very clearly, but they are satisfied that they have become gods themselves. This is very applicable to today's world, if you think about it, isn't it? All the things going on in the world today, call it by different names, trimmings, there's bows and ribbons of different colors on it, but it's all basically what's written on this page. Are there any questions? I don't know if that answered your question. Did it? Well, I guess Prabhupada can answer it better than I can. Just a little bit.
I have maybe request, can you talk a little bit about San Francisco, late 60s?
Oh, you just want the sweet stuff.
Yeah.
I felt that I was giving you too much sweet stuff, and maybe I wasn't being an honorable disciple trying to explain philosophy, so that's why I chose Ishopanishad, which is about the toughest. This is like tougher than Gita, if you know what I mean, so far as philosophy. It's like way up there. But I think it's good. Oh, you're moving this so that I'm not, I'm talking this side of it so that what can I say? There's so much to say, but I don't know where. Can you think of something in particular?
His Grace Jayananda Prabhu was there then.
Who?
Jayananda.
Oh, yes,
right?
Jayananda.
And my Guru Maharaj, Srila Jayapataka Swami, was joined at that time.
Oh, is Jayapataka your guru? Jayapataka was in San Francisco?
He joined there.
He did?
He did Ratha Yatra 68, San Francisco 68, and Jayananda Prabhu shaved him on the Ratha Yatra day, San Francisco 68.
Well, Jayananda I knew because Jayananda was there when we joined. That was in 67. I knew Jayapataka, but it was in 68 in Montreal, not in Frisco. I didn't know he was. I never knew he joined in Frisco, and so Jayananda was so humble. He was such a. He was. We were all like 20 years old or younger. He was kind of old. I think he was 26 or 27. And so, he was kind of, he didn't fit with everybody else, all the young hippie types with their, of course we didn't fit either, but we were young. We were 20. But Jayananda was a taxi driver, and he was very humble. And he used to tell me, I'm just sitting on the fence. I'm not qualified for the spiritual, and I don't fit in the material. I'm just sitting on the fence. He was very, very humble. And he did not ask for initiation. What actually happened, Prabhupada was giving an initiation while we were there. It was within January or February of 67. That's quite early, right after Prabhupada came there. And Prabhupada sat down to do the initiation, and Jayananda was sitting way at the back, just he always was kind of like with his head down. And Prabhupada said, come. He asked him to come and be initiated. I hadn't seen that any other time. He was very, very humble. And so he gave him initiation. And then Jayananda, he was always working hard, always. And he said he used to like to squat down beside his taxi because it was better for his back. And they would tease him, other guys would tease him because everybody else leans against their taxi. And he would drive Prabhupada everywhere, wherever he wanted to go. And he gave him some money too. I can't remember how much it was, but I'm sure it was, considering that we didn't have any money, I'm sure it was a great help. Jayapataka, he must have joined after we left, because we left for New York. When Prabhupada came to San Francisco, there was this big rock concert that they did, and then he installed the Jagannath deities, and then his New York disciples were begging him to come back, and so in March, late February or early March, I don't know the exact date, I should, but he was there in Frisco for a couple months, January, February. Then he made plans to go back to New York. And we were like devastated. What are we going to do with our lives? We don't have anything. I mean, we had left college. We didn't have anything else going for us. I mean, we did not have any friends, any connections, me and my husband were like, what are we going to do? And so my husband asked Prabhupada if we'd go to New York. And he said, sure, yeah, but you have to find your own way, because he was flying. They sent him a ticket. And so Gorsunder went out and put a sign up at the local hip shop, need a ride to New York. And within 1 hour, we got a ride to New York. I mean, it was like we packed everything and we were in a vehicle toward New York within an hour. That's what our lives were like back then in those days. Now it would take me all day to pack, And then we got there, and so we were in New York when Prabhupada had the heart attack. And then he went to India, and then he came back. So my first connection with Jayapataka was not then. I did not know him then. I knew him in Montreal. And I don't know if I told you, but I picked him out to be the babysitter, the Prabhupada sitter. And he was very serious. He was very skinny also, very thin. He had eyes like a hawk. He was serious. I mean, I could sense this person is very, very serious. So that I could go out in the afternoon and go chant on Mount Royal, which was a mountain nearby. Get outdoors, because I was inside all the time. Because I was like a full-time caregiver, you know. We didn't leave Prabhupada alone. And so I asked him if he would come every day and sit in my room and chant quietly while Prabhupada was sleeping, because he took a nap. Prabhupada took a nap every afternoon. And so Jayapataka came, and he would sit in my room and chant very softly. And one time Prabhupada woke up, or there may have been more than one time, but one time that he told me about was that Prabhupada woke up and he wanted a rose, because he liked to smell roses because it relieved his headaches. Flowers are medicinal. Actually, even now they use flowers for medicine in Asia. And so Jayapataka wanted to get the money. We were all very poor then. You had to ask the temple president for 10 cents for some toothpaste in those days. And so the temple president wouldn't give him the money for the rose. And so he was like, I like this determination. He went and got the money somehow and got the rose. I don't know how he got it. I've never asked him. But I saw him just recently. I saw him in Texas. He was at a program in Sadhu Sangha. He was in a wheelchair. He's in pretty bad shape, you know. And I was determined, because it's very, very hard to get through the maze of so many people, you know, because he's surrounded by so many people. But I weaseled through the crowds, and I got to his wheelchair, and I put my book right in his lap, and I said, here's my book, Maharaj. And he asked me, so is this to tell about Montreal, about the about being the babysitter, the Prabhupada sitter? And I said, no, that's book 2. I'm working on book 2 now. That one will tell it. So did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Just nice memories. But you know, the funny thing is, when we talk about Prabhupada, you feel his presence, don't you? You just feel happy. Even if it's some dumb little story like about a rose or something really simple, you know, something very simple. Just because we're talking about Prabhupada, we're talking about him with love, and that attracts his presence. It's a real science. I haven't completely figured it out yet, but I know it works. Any more questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I know you already touched a little bit on that, but I was thinking, because I'm rather young, I don't have any idea how it must be, but how is it if you meet other early devotees, like for example Jayapataka Maharaj or other devotees, like how is the feeling? Is it like you're thrown back into the old times, or like how can I have no idea how it must feel like, so can you maybe go a little bit?
I'm going back into them, but I'm taking you with me. That's what's happening, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens. Whenever you look at Siddhanta's memoir, you've seen the tapes, you've seen the videos, they're on YouTube. Different people are talking about Prabhupada. It's different. It's not like talking about, oh, when the grandkids were little, or oh, when grandma used to bake that cake. You know, it's different. It's because you're talking about a transcendental Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, who has come from the spiritual world and is not one of us, definitely not a material personality. And so when we talk about him with love, these memories, it opens our hearts, and we feel happy, and we feel warm in the heart. To varying degrees. Some people's hearts are harder than others, but you know, it works. Eventually, it's like even stone, if you drop drops of water on it, after a while it gradually melts. And so that's the object of the game, that we gradually melt our heart. And Prabhupada, did you ever hear that story about the Brahmin I don't remember his name, but it's an actual factual event that did take place. And he was from the Sri Sampradaya, I think. Another Sampradaya, whatever one, Sri, one of them. And he flew to Bombay to warn Srila Prabhupada that if you put murtis in your temples, then people will come and they will pray to you, they will touch your feet. You will be taking their karmas. You will be, and he came to warn him because this is very dangerous what you're doing. And Prabhupada said, well, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm doing. So the murtis in these temples, these are, you think this is a murti, but Prabhupada's actually sitting there in his presence. And occasionally we may get glimpses, just like sometimes we get glimpses of Lord Nrsingadev, who's pretty easy to get a glimpse of because he's so powerful. It's just like explosions or something. But we don't always get our glimpses, but sometimes we do. And that's what Prabhupada came for in this age. It's a great benediction. Does that answer your question?
Very much. Thank you very much, Mata.
How it was with Srila Prabhupada?
What?
How was with Srila Prabhupada?
How was?
How it was with Srila Prabhupada.
Well, what kind of question is that? That's like an open-ended, you want me to talk for 5 days type question or something?
My daughter is just reading now Prabhupada Lila Amrit. So today she told me actually I read about Mataji there in the book, how it was for her to be directly with Srila Prabhupada. That's I think the question, that how
I
it
understand.
was to be with Srila Prabhupada, to cook for Srila Prabhupada, to serve Srila Prabhupada.
It was wonderful. It was indescribably wonderful. Very, very wonderful. And that's what I'm saying, that these memoirs, you should watch the different videos of different disciples. They're on YouTube. Siddhantas, I think you can get them on one of those little critters that you stick in a computer. And he's done hundreds of devotees. And those are so powerful. I like them much better than the Lilamrita. The Lilamrita is chronological and not analytical. It's kind of written for, it's not really written for devotees. It's written more for a public image type thing, which has its value in its own right. But I personally think there's a lot more sweetness in hearing different devotees speak about Prabhupada. And also, there are books, like Yamuna has written a book, big Yamuna, huge books. And also Mukunda. But the best of the lot is Shamsundar's. You have to get Shamsundar's books. It's called Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I heard about it.
There's nothing like those books. They are the best, in my opinion. And you can get my book too. Mine's not as good as his, but it's from a girl's perspective. And your little daughter will like that. But it's not here yet. I'm waiting for the boxes to arrive. There's some boxes coming. I sold all of the ones already that I had in Europe. It was just printed last year. I don't know, a few months ago it was printed. And so I've been going to festivals and just signing the book. And it's very simple. It's written very, very simply, with a lot of pictures, early pictures of Prabhupada. Most of them I have never seen before, because my husband, when we traveled with Prabhupada for over a year, and he was learning from Guru Das how to take and develop black and white photos. So we got hundreds of black and white photos. Later on we got color photos, but in those days we didn't have the money for color film. It was, things weren't that developed in the photographic realm at that time. It was pretty simple. So, How was it to be with Srila Prabhupada? I just gave you a homework assignment. You should watch the videos and you should read the books, and then you'll understand that it was the most wonderful thing in the world. There, they're having a fight in there or something. I would hate to be a pujari that the Lord Nrsimhadev would get angry at, be alone in there with them. Did that ever happen? Has it ever happened? That a pujari, that Lord Nrsimha is so much power, so much fire, and you're alone there with him. And if you do something maybe he doesn't like and he gets annoyed, what's that like? Scary? Huh? Once was?
Once he showed his power.
Oh, really? What was it like?
You step back. You like kind of.
Well, I was seeing some of his power tonight. I think we all were, weren't we? It was like he was glowing. Was he glowing? He was glowing. I couldn't even see him anymore. He was glowing, radiating. And that's whenever I started realizing that there isn't anything but me and you. That's all there really is. And then, of course, all the different devotees, but ultimately they are also just Krishna and the soul, and Krishna and the soul. And then if there's interaction, it's a reflection of Krishna. I don't understand these things. I'm not very advanced. They're way over my head. They're way over my head. I'm just a simple devotee, simple aspiring devotee. Does that answer your question, sweetheart?
I have a question, because I read that when you were on Hawaii with Srila Prabhupada, he called the island Navadvip Dham. I heard something like that.
Oh yeah, he named the islands
He
New
named
Navadvip.
it Navadvip. So do you have some story, like what was the idea that Hawaii is like Navadvip or Srila Prabhupada?
Well, he named it New Navadvip because there's 9 islands, and there's 9 islands in Hawaii too, you know. Although not all of them are inhabitable. I think the military has one of them. But there's you know, Oahu, Maui, Big Island, Kauai, Molokai, and I forget the other one. There's about 9 islands there in that chain. So he named it New Navadvip, and he installed Panchatattva in New Navadvip. And they're still there. Panchatattva, Kusha's posting pictures on Facebook. My best friend is Kusha. She's running the temple in Honolulu right now. And she's posting pictures of them almost every day on Facebook, you know. Matter of fact, it's warm in Hawaii in the winter, so if it gets too cold here, you can always take a trip there while it's still there. I don't know, we'll see what happens. But it's, it's all New Navadvip. The focus has always been on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes there. And Prabhupada spent a huge amount of time in Hawaii, in Honolulu, at the temple there. He did most of Chaitanya Charitamrita, completed it there. Yeah, because it's comfortable. It's like Bengal without the mosquitoes. I mean, there's mosquitoes, but they're not like those giant Bengali mosquitoes. They're, you know, it's very comfortable. He used to say that it's just like leftover from a heavenly planet, or no, leftover from a previous age, and Kali Yuga hasn't invaded it completely yet. It's what things were like in a previous age, and if there's any happiness, it's in Hawaii, because it's very beautiful. That used to be. Right now, I can't say that's true. Right now, the demons are really making trouble over there. They just burned down a whole city yesterday with their directed energy weapons. So it's like I don't know. There was a big hurricane. I don't know if you heard, and a whole city burned. Lahaina. But actually, normally, it's very beautiful. The people are very happy there, and very fruits and flowers, mangoes, coconuts, tropical, but not too hot, not tropical like on the equator, the kind that's comfortable, like Mauritius or something. And so he enjoyed being there. He spent a lot of time in Hawaii. And also, a lot of yogis take birth in Hawaii. Because when yogis come from the upper realms, they take birth in heavenly places, comfortable places, like Sedona or Hawaii, or I guess there's other places too, but I don't know what they are. And so there's there's a lot of, the vegetarian society in Hawaii is bigger than any place else in America, and a lot of yogi types, people interested in spiritual realization, natural life, that kind of stuff. Although it's a rough time right now, but generally that's how it is. And yes, it was called, you could go on, I've written some stories about it. It's called HariKrishnaHawaii.com or GovindaDasi.com. I wrote some stories maybe 20 years ago. It's an old-fashioned website. I think it's still up. It should still be up. And it talks about some of our early adventures in Hawaii, when Prabhupada was there in Hawaii, and also the beginning of the temples there. It was a special time. It really was. Sometimes when we're going through things, we don't realize how special they are, And then we look back in retrospect, and you realize, wow, that was really pretty far out. That was an amazing experience. Kind of like that. That answer your question? Any more?
Mataji, I have a rather practical question. Maybe it has been asked before, and I'm not aware of it, but how to please Srila Prabhupada?
Whoa, that's a big question. That's not a little question. How to please Srila Prabhupada? Well, I don't think I've pleased him, but I'm still trying. First of all, we become humble, and first of all, we also become sincere. Sincerity means attentiveness. Those were his statements exactly. Being attentive to what we're doing is sincerity. So we sincerely try to do whatever we're going to do, whether it's chanting Hare Krishna or cleaning the temple or decorating the deity or whatever we're doing. We try to do it attentively, putting our heart into it, putting our love into it. Because ultimately, bhakti is love. You can follow a lot of rules and regulations, but that is not going to get you bhakti. What really matters is your heart. And this is actually a very, very good question, because oftentimes people get sidetracked by the details. Whether or not I should wear a pink sock or a green sock, or whether or not I should wear a sari or a gopi dress, or whether or not I should, you know what I mean? The details, the small things, or little philosophical, differences between us, because we do have differences. We're always going to have differences. Krishna likes variety, and so he doesn't make everybody the same. He makes everybody different. Every single person in this room is different. If you look at their astrological charts, they're all different. And the same thing with everybody in this town and everybody in this country as well. So Krishna likes variety. So we have to honor the fact that Krishna likes variety, and we have to not try to superimpose our likes and dislikes on everyone else around us. And we try to honor Srila Prabhupada's likes and dislikes. Just like there's a huge battle going on right now with the Krishna West and why we should wear dhotis. I mean, if they spend as much time talking about Krishna as they do about what they're wearing on their bodies, it's crazy, in my opinion. But anyway, that's what goes on. People get into that kind of stuff. They get sidetracked. So what we have to realize is that there are varieties, but Prabhupada kind of gave us an overall format of what he liked. He made it pretty clear that he really likes devotees to dress in Vaikuntha attire, at least when they come to the temple. Maybe not when they go to the grocery store or something, but he kind of liked that. And so we have to look at what would please him. And the thing that really pleases him the most is when we preach. That's the bottom line. Helping other living entities. Because he is the personality of compassion. Srila Prabhupada had so much compassion. I told you the story about the slug, where I was on the ground chanting to a slug. You know what a slug is? Does anyone know what a slug is? It's an ugly creature that doesn't have a snail. It's a snail without a shell. In Switzerland, I saw they're brown, but in America, they're kind of gray, and they're slimy, and they move along the ground, and they leave a trail of slime. They're about as gross as you can get, And so when I was in New Jersey with Srila Prabhupada, first there, I'm sitting outside, he's sitting in the chair in the sunshine, and I'm sitting beside him because we didn't leave him alone. We were with him, made sure we were with him all the time. And there's a slug crawling right near his feet. And I was a young girl, I went, ooh, just like you would go, like that. And so he said, he looked down and he said, chant to the poor creature. And so I was on my hands and knees chanting to the slug. And that's his compassion. He didn't see that ugly slug. He saw the soul in the body of the slug. She's a beautiful daughter. How old are you?
On Sunday, I will have
13? So you're just a perfect age for gopis. Krishna likes young girls. One time, Prabhupada said to my husband, because I was arranging the flowers and everything, he said, Govinda Dasi is a very beautiful young girl. Don't try to enjoy her. Send her to Krishna. Krishna likes all beautiful young girls. So you're beautiful. I'm an old lady now, but you're a beautiful young girl. So we can send you to Krishna. Anything else? I think it's 8:30. I don't want to keep you up late.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to ask, what in your service to Prabhupada, what were the most difficult aspect for you in the service? Maybe they were more challenging.
I never thought of that before. I don't know. Maybe everything, maybe fully surrendering, maybe that's it. Maybe fully surrendering. Because I have a mind of my own, I tend to be a little independent, a little bit, I'm an American girl, what do you expect, We weren't trained to be, I guess that. But that doesn't bother me that much, because I'm not surrendered. If I was really surrendered, it would bother me, but it doesn't bother me at all, as a matter of fact. So maybe that's it. I'd really never thought of that question before. I think the most painful thing is seeing his movement, his beautiful, incredible ISKCON movement disturbed by politics and fighting. That's definitely the most painful thing. Because it was a very beautiful time in history. I would recommend that there's a bunch of videos, they're discs, they're I think online now, called Following Srila Prabhupada, that was done by Vishaka and Yadubar. And if you look at these, there's like 13 discs, you know. I played them every day for my mother for the last 2 years of her life. So that means I saw them too. And if you just look at the mood, and look at the ones in the very beginning, in the first and second ones, you will see, you get a glimpse of the ecstatic family atmosphere that was there. And then you can see as things get toward the end, there's a little bit of changes, you know. Because anytime you have a large institution, you're going to have differences, politics, and difficulties. At the same time, that was what was necessary. It was necessary for spreading all over the world because there wasn't much time. Prabhupada always had the mood, the house is burning down. We've got to put the water, the house is burning, meaning the holy name. The house is burning down, we don't have much time. And also he was 70 years old, 72 years old. So he knew that he didn't have much time. And many of the young men that he gave sannyas to, he knew they weren't going to be able to uphold it. He knew that. I always thought he knew that, but from Shrutakirti I learned that he did know it and talk about it. And like, for example, because Madhavisa, an example, he's passed away now, dear godbrother. Madhavisa was a very football player type guy, you know, type A, lusty, handsome, big, you know, that kind. And he gave him sannyas at like 20 years old or 22 years old or something. But he opened up all of Australia and New Zealand. It gave him the push to do this. And then later, whenever he decided to marry, Prabhupada said, no problem. You simply marry and live peacefully. He was not angry at the least, but some of the godbrothers treated him very badly. And Prabhupada was angry at the way they treated him, you know. But Prabhupada was not like that at all. He was very kind and gentle. He was truly, if there's any comparison, it must be Lord Nityananda. Incredibly merciful. Incredibly merciful. Incredibly kind and merciful. Actually, the truth is, our only hope is Lord Nityananda. And Srila Prabhupada is like the representative of Lord Nityananda's compassion. Every acharya has a particular mood, and his is definitely Lord Nityananda. Well, I think it's time to get our hot milk and go to bed. I hope you're drinking hot milk too. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All glories to the singing devotees. All glories to this beautiful oasis in Kali, where there's all these beautiful demigoddesses, and bringing in more demigods, so these beautiful children and young girls, bringing in beautiful babies that are from heaven. It's really amazing, isn't it? In the meantime, the rest of the world is